Hi, my name's Emery Smith from the Martha O'Brien Center, and we're going to talk about decimals. So what is a decimal? When we talk about decimals in this course, we're referring to a number with a decimal point. A decimal point separates whole numbers from parts of numbers. Here's an example of when we often see decimal points. The whole dollars in this gas sign are separated from the cents, or the parts of dollars, by a decimal point. But do there have to be parts of numbers in order to have a decimal point? The answer is no. There's often a lot of zeros after decimal points. For example, 6.00000. So why all the zeros? Let's say that gas costs $2 exactly. Those zeros are communicating that the gas costs $2 per gallon with 0 cents. We could also write that number just as the number 2, or even as 2.0 or 2.000. All of these values are the same. In fact, all whole numbers can be written as decimals. So 5 is the same as 5.0, which is the same as 5.00, which is the same as 5.000. Adding the zeros at the end just communicates that there's no parts of numbers after the decimal. And so the value of that number 5 doesn't change. But what if I have 5.1? Now I'm saying something different. So let's talk about that. Let's say I have 6 pies. And somebody sneaks into my kitchen and they take one of my pies, leaving just one slice. Well, I could say that I have 6 pies still, but that wouldn't exactly be the truth because I don't have 6 whole pies. I could say that I have 5, but I have a little bit more than 5, so that wouldn't be true either. If I have 5 pies and then 1/10 of a pie, I could say that I have 5.1, or 5 and 1/10 of a pie. So how do I know to put 1 in the tenths place? How do I know that it's 5.1 and not 5.2 or 5.3 or 5.25? The names of the places after the decimal point give us a clue to how much they're worth. So in the same way that $1 is 1/10 of $10, it takes 10 ones to be equal to a $10 bill. In the same way, it's going to take 10 tenths to be equal to 1. Let me explain using money. It takes 10 dimes to be equal to $1. So 1 dime is 1/10 of a dollar. So if I have 2 dimes, I have 2 tenths, and I would put the number 2 after the decimal point. What about hundredths? Well, if hundredths were money, they would be pennies because it takes 100 pennies to make $1. Let's say that I have $1.85. In this case, I would have $1 bill and 8 dimes and 5 pennies. I'd have 1 and 88 tenths and 5 hundredths. Or I could say I'd have $1 and 85 hundredths. But what if I didn't have those 5 pennies? Could I just write it 1.8? Yeah, I could, because I have $1 and 8 tenths. I could also write it as 1.80 to communicate that I have $1, 8 tenths, and 0 hundredths. You see, the value doesn't change when I add zeros. So 1.80 and 1.8 are equivalent decimals. So what are decimal numbers? Just remember that decimal points separate whole numbers from parts of numbers.